Hey everyone, welcome to Reddit Readout. Today we are checking out Malicious Compliance. Story 1. You must have extra pineapple. Sure thing, but it'll cost you extra. For the sake of sanity, let's not argue about whether pineapple belongs on a pizza or not. Many people love it on their pizza, and some even want more than one serving. I used to work at a large pizza chain in my last year of high school, and we had a fairly simple pricing policy. The price was the same for any of our menu items, one of which was a 4-topping pizza, for which you could choose any toppings up to 4. There was an extra charge for adding extra toppings, obviously. One customer came in and wanted Hawaiian with extra pineapple. This is a total of 3 toppings, ham and double pineapple, so I replied, "So would you like ham and double pineapple?" to prompt them for the lower priced order. "Oh, no. Not at all. I want Hawaiian with extra pineapple, didn't you hear me? Okay, Hawaiian with extra pineapple it is." I rang it up, charged them for a menu pizza with an extra topping, and they happily paid. This would happen 3 or 4 times a month, with different people, so I never pushed beyond that one prompt. A lot of customers picked up on it and were happy to save a few bucks, the others paid for their lack of listening skills. Story 2. Went into work with a severe allergic reaction. Just read a story on here that reminded me of this incident. This happened earlier this year, and it was a fast food job. To be fair, my managers were really awesome about letting people take sick days if needed, but upper management had been getting on them about this, so the manager this happened with was just as exasperated as I was about it. I have gotten a micro cut on my arm that got infected. It looked and acted like a pimple, but hurt and wouldn't go away no matter what I did. I finally went into the doctor when it started turning purple because I was concerned and ended up put on a medication that I turned out to be allergic to. On day 9 of the medication I had a full head to toe rash, just swollen and itchy, and I had a shift the next day. I called my manager and she, following the new policy, told me that either I needed to find someone to cover my shift or come in anyway. She said she'd check on me before my shift to assess how bad it was. There wouldn't be any actual risk to guests, it just didn't look good. Lo and behold, I couldn't get the shift covered on such short notice. I had wrapped my whole body in gauze because having a layer over the rash stopped the itching, so I dressed casual, put my work clothes in a bag, and got there 30 minutes early, my norm cause I get food before my shift. I walked in and the manager looked at me, still wrapped in gauze, though I had unwrapped my head, and said, "Yeah, you're not working today, let me know when you're ready to order." The best part was that one of the directors was in the break area, and he was stunned to see an employee was, honestly looked to be in really bad condition, was even at work that day. We talked and they started allowing a bit more leniency on call-outs. A manager could decide over a phone call, ask for a pic of a doctor's note, or otherwise give permission for staff to simply call out if no one was found to take the shift and the staff member's condition was deemed unfit for work. Story 3. Department manager wants me to stay late to finish all duties. Sure. This happened a couple of years ago in December 2019. I got a job at a higher-end grocery store in the area, as I was planning on saving for when I started college in the fall of 2020. The store has all kinds of different departments like a market cafe, pizza/sub shop, cheese, etc. I aced my interview and was hired in the bakery department specifically for breads only. That'll be important later. The first 4 months was a breeze, but after COVID-19 ramped up, my doctor put me on leave until August. When I returned, a lot of people had quit in the bakery. I was taking college classes now, so I was working night shift part-time from 5 to 9 p.m. My department manager Hannah informed me that they were short-staffed on nights and I might be on my own 1 day a week. I was sure I would be getting help for the rest of the nights. Nope. Weeks go by and I barely get help. I'm burning myself out doing closing shift on my own, along with my school work. No one was in the dessert or breakfast section, and I can't talk to anyone about it because they're gone by the time I clock in. I complained to the bread manager Jim, and he told me to talk to Hannah since she runs the whole department. Sure, fine. This is how the conversation went with Hannah. OP, hey, I wanted to talk to you about the workload. A lot of day shift people leave their mess and can't clean up after themselves. I have to do that in my duties, which isn't fair. Are you hiring anybody for nights? I can't keep running around and using my inhaler so much too. Hannah, oh yeah. We're having a hard time filling the night shift roles. We could always train you for desserts and breakfast. OP, that's not what I meant. I meant assistance, not more responsibility. I can't do everything in the bakery and close with only 4 hours. Hannah, well. You can figure something out. Just make sure you don't leave a mess during closing though. You can't leave until everything is done. I can't leave until everything is done? Okay. Ever since she said that, I started documenting every time I had to do 3 jobs at once. I would take my sweet time when I didn't have class the next day, making sure I clocked out at 11 p.m. each time. The amount of stuff that kept piling was ridiculous, but I was simply following her instructions. HR noticed my clock in and out times and wanted me to come by their office. I told them everything, including what Hannah said to me, along with the photos I took. Suddenly everything changed. At 9 o'clock sharp they were kicking me out, and whatever was left was for the morning. Ha! Hannah was reprimanded but wasn't fired until she was caught selling 2-year-old expired pumpkin pies to customers during Thanksgiving. That day sure was a doozy. I was shocked when I saw all those empty boxes she already sold. Dr. My department manager tells me to clean up day shift's mess, including closing duties for the whole bakery. I made sure I took an extra 2 hours every shift to close. She got in trouble and was fired soon after for something unrelated. Photos for context, I'm glad I didn't delete them. Even the fuck-up day shift had by leaving bagels in the proof box all day, expecting me to clean it. Joke's on them. I didn't. They also hid dishes in the freezer in boxes from the health inspector. Truly ridiculous. And this is considered a high-end grocery store. https://mgur.com/a/sftxwzm. Edit. I was working morning shift and saw many of the habits they had when I was first hired, but it didn't affect me until I was working night shift alone. I had no idea how bad it was, until I experienced it. During mornings I always made sure to clean up after myself, even the bread slicer, which can have caked on mess by the afternoon. Story 4. There are only 2 tragedies in life, one is not getting what one wants and the other is getting it. As a contract cleaner, the food company I was working at, let's call them Pot Crisps, decided to start shaving costs in the most pathetic ways by switching to cheaper plastic cups for the water coolers, that were too small for the dispensers and fell through them, cheaper paper towels, you needed twice as much to dry your hands because it was so thin, so they ended up costing more, and trying to figure out exactly how many toilet rolls they needed to buy per month. So for 2 months we had to fill out forms for all the toilets every time we put a fresh bog roll in a dispenser, and after a week they said we couldn't leave the boxes on the form blank, we had to put in a 0 so there was no ambiguity about whether or not we were filling out the forms. Now, in the offices and factory toilets that saw several dozen people using them, there were only a few days where we needed to put a 0 in the box. But the lone toilet in the potato intake building, almost no one ever used it because you could be overheard in the control room next door. But we still had to fill out the form for that lone toilet. So I did. 00000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000 exactly what I was told to do. And in 10 weeks I had indeed only needed to replace one role. There was also a supervisor there who kept ringing my manager to complain I was rude if I said excuse me if someone was in my way while I was hoovering or mopping. He also rang my manager to complain that I was being patronizing when I said excuse me, please. So my manager told me in very definite terms to never, ever, ask anyone to move. If I was working and they didn't have the common sense to get out of the way as I performed the job they were paying our company to do, that was their problem. That supervisor was not impressed with this compromise, but the manager had the owner of our company as witness to his complaints, so he was able to point out he was getting exactly what he wanted, me not interacting with anyone. Ever. Story 5. You want to be strict with the camping site rules, then let's be strict with the rules. Context: few weeks ago I was touring Europe on my car and caravan with family. Usually people are very nice on camping sites with their temporary neighbors, but this incident was a big exception to that rule. TLDR, at the end. Story: we arrived to a very large camping site in the middle of Sweden late afternoon, and after getting our keys and a printout info, campsite rules and local tourist attractions etc., actually like a magazine, from the reception we went to find our designated pitch to set up the caravan so we could start relaxing after hours and hours of driving. Now it might be relevant to see how the pitches and driveways are set up for the story to make better sense. See the linked picture, https://imgur.com/a/gw8sj to help you visualize. Let's say I've been assigned the spot 67 and the old geezer of this story has the pitch 58. So we release the kids to go find a playground and start the process of setting up camp. I back up the caravan to the pitch, detach the car, manually crank the support legs down and so on when a grumpy old geezer approaches yelling 4 meters. 4 meters. It was hot, I was sweating from the manual work and a bit confused, so I ask perhaps a bit sharply what he is going on about. He manages to explain that the rules say the caravans have to be 4 meters, about 13 feet, apart, and that I absolutely must move my caravan, which is already halfway done setting up camp. Now I admit that I did put my caravan only about 1 meter, little over 3 feet, from the back of the pitch, but this jerk has his own caravan roughly the same distance or less from the perimeter, and his front tent's ground lines are on our pitch. I go around checking the situation and leave my wife to talk with the geezer. I come back around after maybe 30 seconds and see my wife upset. Before I can ask why, she tells me that the geezer told her verbatim to go back to Finland. After she had pointed out that his tent cords are attached to our side. So I get angry. I'm positively seething, and for a moment I consider getting physical, but then I decide to get petty instead. So I go undo the setup we've already done, I move the caravan, double-check that I'm within the rules. This took me about 7 minutes. Then I go tell the geezer that I've now complied, so if you want to be strict with the rules, then let's be strict with the rules. Your own caravan is clearly in violation of the rules, so move the fucking thing or I promise I'll go to the reception and complain. I was so angry that I remember my hand shaking while I emphasized my message with finger pointing. So I was pretty angry. Fallout: we got great satisfaction seeing he had to disassemble most of his front tent, crank up the support legs, get the car, attach the car, move his caravan and then reset up everything. Took him and his partner about 25 to 30 minutes to do so. If you want to be a jerk, make sure you are also in compliance before complaining to someone else. These kind of rules that are usually more like suggestions anyway. Oh, and I also told the kids that there is a special situation here, you don't have to be quiet and consider the neighbors like normally. Instead you can shout and play as loudly as you like, within the allowed times to make noise, and they did. Luckily the other surrounding pitches were not occupied at the time, so this didn't bother anyone but the geezer and his partner. I also got a small solace from the fact that my wife did reply to the "go back to Finland" comment with the age-old classic "fuck you." We left the site and continued on our way the next day as planned. TLDR, old geezer tells me to move my half-set-up caravan because it's too close to the border. I move it and force him to move his more complex setup also, since he is breaking the same rule he asks me to comply with. PS if you want to use this story for a YouTube, podcast, or similar, feel free to do so. I must emphasize that Seouli people in these places are really nice. I've done this kind of traveling for many years and never before had a problem like this. I don't know what this geezer's problem was, but I'm guessing some Finns in the past had caused him to have a grudge and he lashed out on us since we are Finns. That's all for today. Please don't forget to like and subscribe.